the home of inspiration every day.
Most people give up on themselves easily. You know the human spirit is powerful.
From news,
countries across the globe have been hit by the COVID-19 virus.
Views,
There's a global trend to see an increase in GBV incidences, specifically domestic violence.
sports,
What's he say? It's a really good ball. It's Shabalala.
and music to inspire you every day. This is Vuka Online, your inspiration radio station.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of The Cycle right here on Vuka Online Radio with me, your host, Mogale Mothale. Thank you so much for streaming. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Monday, the 7th of April, 2025. And thanks to my colleague, Mongezi, with the news bulletin. He will be coming back at 7 to bring you the latest in the news. Like I always say all the time, that we are priding ourselves with making sure that you are up to date with what is happening in the country, on the continent, and of course, even across the globe. Tonight on The Cycle, it's going to be a very busy night. There's a lot that we have to cover. Remember, on the first part of the show, we will be looking into the key highlights of the week. Of course, we are going to be looking into the Timothy Omodoso, the man who has been in jail for the last 8 years on charges of rape, human trafficking, among other charges that was, laid against him. He was acquitted, and there's a lot that has since came out of that acquittal. And of course, we are also going to be looking into the Liberation Day, as Donald Trump, called it last week when he was announcing or introducing a list of tariffs that will be imposed on countries that are doing business with the United States. And of course, we were on the list. We are on the list. We have been slapped with about 30% on all exports to the United States. And of course, we'll also be looking into what we'll be discussing this evening with Sanet Solomon from the University of the Free State. She is a political analyst. She needs no introduction. I'm sure you have seen her on your TV screens, on all mainstream media. And she will be talking to us about what is the future of the GNU under the current circumstances. We have seen, last week, the Democratic Alliance voting against the budget. And what does this mean for the DA, who are really playing a very important role in the GNU as the second biggest party in the GNU? And I think we need to also remember that there are other 10 parties in the GNU. It's not only the Democratic Alliance in the GNU. And sometimes I think the mistake that we are making is to only focus on the Democratic Alliance and the ANC in the GNU, whereas there are other political parties that are playing a role in the GNU. So we are going to be asking as to what is the future of the GNU, understanding that the ANC and the Democratic Alliance, they constitute a majority in the GNU. If the Democratic Alliance leaves the GNU, then it means that the ANC will have to talk to other political parties so that they are able to continue with the government of national unity. So that's what we'll be looking into this evening with Sanet Solomon, who will be joining us right after the break, but not after the break, but right after we have looked into some of the key highlights of the week. And of course, you know how to get in touch with us by now. We are at Vuka Online Radio on all our social media platforms. We are at Vuka Online Radio on Facebook, on X, as well as on Instagram. So please do share your thoughts with us. Please do make sure that you are part of the conversation, because what we are doing it for you. We are here with you, and it will be very interesting, and it will actually add value to the conversation that we are having all right here on The Cycle when you are part of the conversation. Please do make sure that you participate in the conversation that we will be having this evening. As I said, please just make sure that you go into our social media platforms and add your voice on our social media platforms. My name is Mogale Mothale, and we are back right after this short break. Stay tuned.
How do you know the life of personal coach you're about to work with is who they say they are? How do you know if they can do the job? At the Africa Board for Coaching, Consulting and Coaching Psychology, we can tell you. So, before you share your secrets and spend your money, check with us first. Visit www.abccccp.com or call us on 012-751-7608. The ABCCP, the professional body for coaches.
Welcome back to The Cycle this evening with me, your host, Mogale Mothale. This is The Cycle, the show that comes to you every Monday from 6 until 7 p.m. And this evening, we will be looking into the current developments in the GNU and what does it mean for the GNU. Are we likely to see a reconfigured GNU in the coming days? Things are happening very fast in our political space, and we might not, see the continuation. And I'm saying might not, because a lot can happen. They say that a week is a very long time in politics, so we might see the reconfiguration of the GNU, or we might actually see the ANC and the Democratic Alliance coming out to say that we have solved or we have dealt with whatever differences that we have, and we are ready to move on and continue with the GNU. But according to many people who are privy to the information that most of us we don't have, it doesn't look like these two political parties will actually find each other. You have had last week Helen Zille outside court talking about the fact that they are willing to really go back to the opposition benches. They are not willing to compromise on what is actually a budget that is going to affect the poorest of the poor negatively. But for now, let's hold that thought. We will be talking to Sanet Solomon, telling us about all of this right after the break. At this point, let's look into our key highlights of the week. A lot happened last week, starting with Timothy Omodoso, who has been acquitted of all the charges that were laid against him, the charges that include rape and human trafficking. So he was acquitted, and the judge who was presiding over that case has actually put the blame on the NPA holding of the case, how the NPA has actually dealt with the case. According to the judge, it was very poor, saying that even the manner at which they were cross-examining the witnesses, it did not show that actually this is the NPA that wants to see a conviction. And there's been a lot that happened in the last few days with regard to this case. And the Minister of Justice, Mamuluku Kubai, has actually written a letter to the NPA in the Eastern Cape to demand an explanation as to actually what happened with this case, because it doesn't make sense that a man who has been accused of this very serious crime has actually now free. So let's take a listen to the minister when he was explaining why he actually demanded an explanation from the NPA in the Eastern Cape.
Today I have written to the NDPP, Advocate Batoi of the NPA, evoking Section 33 to A of the NPA Act in relation to the Omodose and others case. You understand that this has been a case that has dragged for almost 8 years, with victims that have gone all out to give testimony. Watching a young woman cry in court after the verdict was heartbreaking. I took time to go through the judgment, and unfortunately, the judge was scathing against the NPA. It is this results that have led me to take this decision and action. I have given the NDPP until Monday the 7th to give me a report in terms of this matter, and will take the matter forward. This concerns me more because many of the victims of GBV take real effort, but out of their comfort to go and testify in court, and my fear as a Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development is that this outcome might discourage many who have been brave enough to stand against the most powerful people to give testimony in court, some in the most discomfort way, where they exposes themselves to public scrutiny of what has happened. And that's why we stand to understand what has happened, what went wrong, and therefore how do we move forward in assuring the country that we are serious as government in dealing with GBV and femicide cases, but most importantly, to convince the nation that we are serious about protecting and eroding gender-based violence in our society. We can't continue to protect perpetrators, but more we need to stand with victims. We must be victim-centric in our approach, but understand the plight of those who go through this torture, who go through this difficulty. As I say, listening to the judge was the most painful thing for me as a minister overseeing this portfolio. I can't evade responsibility. I cannot shield myself from taking accountability and being accountable to South African society, especially listening to that judgment. It's a moment for all of us in this portfolio to reflect and to say, what is it that we're going to do better, to rebuild confidence of South Africans in the justice system.
Well, that was the Minister of Justice, Mabuluku Kubai, talking about the fact that the must restore public confidence. And I've seen some tweets last week after this. Somebody said that there goes NPA again, and that shows that people have just lost confidence in the NPA and how the NPA conducts some of these cases, and it's really very sad. So let's move to another story, and of course we will hear in the coming days as to what will then be the next step with regard to this case. Last week, Donald Trump, I think it was on Tuesday, not on Tuesday, but on Wednesday, he called it Liberation Day as he was introducing a list of tariffs that will be imposed on countries that are doing business with the United States. Including South Africa, we have been slapped with about 30% on all exports to the United States, with effect from last week. Let's take a listen to what he had to say about South Africa, still maintaining that bad things are still happening in South Africa.
60% South Africa, 60%, 30%, and they've got some bad things going on in South Africa. We're paying them billions of dollars, and we cut the funding because a lot of bad things are happening in South Africa. The fake news ought to be looking at it. They don't want to report it.
So yeah, South Africa, bad things are happening in South Africa. Still maintains that. Remember, the DG of the International Relations, Department of International Relations and Cooperation, Dango, was actually in DC last week meeting with the US top officials. We haven't heard of any outcomes of that meeting, but we have heard that the meeting was just cordial, and nothing much has actually been reported with regard to the meeting. But from what Donald Trump is saying, it doesn't sound or look like they've been able to convince the US top officials otherwise about the country. Another story that actually kept us talking a lot, and that is what is forming the main discussion for our show this evening, is the tax vote last week, the budget framework, which the DA is actually challenging in court. And of course, we'll be asking the question, what does this mean for the GNU right after the break? But for now, let's take a listen to Helen Zille outside court last week.
South Africa.
My apologies about that. Let's take a listen to Helen Zille.
We are not in the GNU, and so we're not going to sit there and allow that to happen. We are not in the GNU for blue lights, or cars, or ministerial homes, or status. We are in that GNU for one sole purpose, and that is to get South Africa's economy to grow at the rate it needs to grow in order to absorb more people into productive employment and thereby reduce. That is why we are here. And we're not going to play any games that enable the ANC to retain its profligate spending, its extreme wastage, not even do a spending review of, for example, ghost employees in the system, but just continue taxing South Africans till they cannot even put food on the table, as my colleague Karabo so eloquently said a moment ago. So our plan B is to take this to court. Our plan B is very strong and solid. This morning I signed these papers. These are crucial papers that are going to really change the face of how these decisions are taken in Parliament and change the decision to increase your VAT. It will ensure that we prevent that. And these papers have two parts. The first is to get the process on the 1st of April that transpired in the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Finance declared null and void because they were unprocedural. Therefore, to set aside any decision they took. And the second part of Part A is to interdict a VAT increase on the 1st of May.
So yes, that's Helen Zille speaking outside court last week. We will see as to how this will unfold in the coming days with regard to this court challenge. We are going to take a break. When we come back, Sanet Solomon from the University of the Free State, who is an analyst and also a political science lecturer at the Department of Political Sciences at the University of the Free State, will be joining us right after this short break.
The Africa Center for Work-Based Learning is a professional development center for professionals who aim to improve their professional standing. This means that the learning programs we run are more than just academic programs. They are work-based programs that focus on leveraging your current experience as a professional to build your overall profile. A year down the line, the Africa Center for Work-Based Learning is developing into a preferred center for professional development in Pretoria, with 8 professional development faculties including accounting, teaching, entrepreneurship, as well as IT and many more. For more information, go to acwbl.org or dial +27 12 751 7608. The Africa Center for Work-Based Learning, where work is learning.
Welcome back to the show. We are supposed to be talking to or joined by Sanet Solomon, but she's not yet ready for us. But she will be ready for us in the next few minutes. But while we are waiting for Sanet to join us, let's just take a listen to some of the reactions from the parliamentarians, starting with the EFF with regards to what happened last week in the National Assembly.
Nothing called GNU. Because when he says you are a government of national unity, what is uniting you if you can agree on something called a national budget? We equally oppose to that. We never agree to anything that is an extra budget on the poor or the poorest. We equally said this committee that presented the report today did not follow the process as required by the Money Act, which dictates that you either adopt or amend fiscal framework and budget proposal. That did not happen in the committee. They fabricated a report and brought it here. And they said there was so-called recommendation by the Action SA. The Money Bills Act does not provide an option for recommendations. You do two things. You either adopt or amend, and none of the two happen. So what you saw as recommendations and all manner of things is actually political thuggery, is political maneuvering, which seeks to mislead the people. It is a gentleman's arguments which are made behind closed doors, and you don't understand the rationality behind such decisions. So we refuse to associate with such decisions.
Well, that was Julius Malema speaking outside Parliament last week with regard to the vote on the budget framework, and he's actually saying that they will be speaking to their lawyers, and maybe we might see them taking the Democratic Alliance route of taking this matter to court. Let's now take a listen to Rise Mzansi's leader, Sonkosi Sipi, who is one of the parties or the party leaders who voted in favor of the budget framework.
Madam Deputy Speaker, we are here today because the can has been kicked down the road too many times in the past, especially since February 19. We are here because trillions of rand borrowed by our government since 2013 have gone to waste. If we borrow more, it will be irresponsible. Today, we face a situation where the country pays interest of 8.5 billion rand per week on our debt at between 9% and 10%. Taking on any more debt would be a burden on future generations. We must make our choices within the money that is available. But the biggest problem we have is the composition of our expenditure. We spend too much on salaries, too much paying for debt, and too little on investment into the economy. The Department of Health only spends 5% of its budget on capital expenditure. The Department of Education only 4%. That means we are asking fellow South Africans to wait longer for services they deserve. South Africans have been bled dry. They cannot afford any more taxes. They are angry because on a daily basis they see people who steal and waste government money walking around without being arrested. Just last week we were in Buffalo City on oversight. 57 million rand has been spent on a swimming pool so far, but it is still not working. Instead, it must be dug up and built again at a cost to taxpayers. In the OR Tambo district where I come from, we see the same patterns. South Africans still waiting for clean running water, even though there are taps installed. We saw a dam project on which hundreds of millions have been spent, but there is still no dam and no water. We found the same pattern of mismanagement, with suppliers being paid for work that till today has not produced a desired result. The painful thing is that the people of South Africa have no choice but to put more money into the projects, because we cannot tolerate that there are South Africans who have no access to clean water. It is a painful insult to us South Africans to pay twice, 3 or 4 times what they should have paid less for. Honorable Deputy President, surely, we can work together to find between 20 billion and 30 billion minimum in savings in the medium term, surely. But that means we must work together between now and October to start producing results from next year. South Africans cannot afford to bleed any more money. They don't have it. If we take the experience seriously, then we must use the next 30 days to find alternatives to VAT and personal income tax increases. We will certainly make detailed submissions in the respect so that we can finalize this budget. Therefore, we will vote for the adoption of this report.
Well, that was Sonkosi Sipi speaking in Parliament, as he was actually explaining that they will actually be voting in support of the budget. Of course, making some very interesting submissions there. We are spending more on salaries. We are spending more on servicing debt, and borrowing more will actually make matters worse. Also on the fact that people are accused of mismanagement, and there is clear evidence, as Sonkosi Sipi has been saying in the committee, the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, that there are people who it is well known that they are involved in corruption, but they are not being arrested. And South Africans are angry about those things because we know people who they have actually mismanaged the municipal finances, but these people are still on the streets. He made mention of what we were talking about last week here on the show. His oversight visit together with his team in the Eastern Cape, where they were actually doing an oversight. Communities that have been waiting for water for years, and until now there's still no water in their taps, and this cannot be the case. It cannot go on like this. Something needs to change in how we do governance. So let's take a listen to Mmusi Maimane. Remember last week when these people, I mean the political parties that voted in favor of the budget framework, they were actually attacked on social media, and Mmusi Maimane thought that he should take his followers the confidence to say that we did not do this blindly. And let's just take a listen to what Mmusi Maimane had to say, just to make it clear to his supporters and the members of his party as to why they voted in a manner that which they did.
Every single one of you. This is the first leg of 3. And so let me say to every single one of you, this is the first leg of 3 in the budget cycle. Next, we're dealing with the Division of Revenue Bill, which will come to our committee, and we've had public hearings to have this discussion. Secondly, we're going into the Appropriations Bill, which each will then have to vote according to the various votes that take place to make sure ultimately we have a budget that works for you. Fellow South Africans, it would have been irresponsible for me as a leader to not have the fiscal framework go through. It would be even more irresponsible of me to not fight for the expenditure cuts that will make sure we reverse VAT. So I want you to come with us. As hard, as uncertain as the next number of months or weeks are going to be, but make sure and know I'm committed to make sure that we have a budget that works for you. And BOSA has always stood to say we'll be the voice of the people. This is not about reconfiguration of the GNU or any of that. This is about serving the people of South Africa. You're it for me, and therefore I want to make sure I earn your work, your word, so that we can make sure we deliver a government that works for the people. Much love to all of you, and I'll see you soon.
Well, that was Mmusi Maimane just explaining to his members of his party and those who support him to say that we did not do this just because we are interested in the reconfiguration of the GNU, because it looks like that's where we are going as a country, the reconfiguration of the GNU, looking at how things are playing out with between the ANC and the Democratic Alliance. So we are most likely to see a reconfigured GNU, but like I said, we might not, maybe, I don't know, let me not say a lot. Sanet Solomon, who will be joining us after the break, will be able to help us understanding how are we likely to see things unfold in the GNU. Somebody just reminded me that I made a mistake in the key highlights of the week. I said that Minister Mamluku Kubai will be, or she has written to the Eastern Cape NPA, but in fact she has written to the National Director of Prosecutions, Shamila Patohi, requesting that she be given a proper understanding, and also just to clarify as to what happened with regard to the Omotoso case. Why is she acquitted on all charges? So we are going to, I just wanted to make sure that I corrected that so that we are able to understand each other. Let's take a break. When we come back, definitely, most definitely, we will be having Sanet Solomon joining us, because she has just indicated that she's now ready to join us. She will be with us right after this short break. Stay tuned.
How do you know the life of personal coach you're about to work with is who they say they are? How do you know if they can do the job? At the Africa Board for Coaching, Consulting and Coaching Psychology, we can tell you. So, before you share your secrets and spend your money, check with us first. Visit www.abccccp.com or call us on 012-751-7608. The ABCCP, the professional body for coaches.
Welcome back to the show this evening with me, your host, Mogale Mothale. This is The Cycle, the show that comes to you every Thursday, every Monday. Every Monday from 6 until 7 p.m. Just before we took a break, I said that we will be joined by Sanet Solomon from the University of the Free State, who is a political analyst as well as a political science lecturer in the Department of Political Sciences at the University of the Free State. She won't be joining us, but she will be. She has sent me a recording of her thoughts on this subject tonight, where we are looking into the future of the GNU. Where are we going with this? And with this letter from business that has since emerged, and we have heard from the two political leaders, which are at loggerheads, the ANC and the DA, confirming that they have indeed received the letter. But what does this letter mean? Does this letter mean that ANC and the Democratic Alliance are now forced to find ways to work together? Or this letter is just what? Another way of saying, you know what, as business, we are watching you very closely. We don't want to see any reconfiguration of the GNU. We don't want to see the MK or the EFF as part of government. And you guys will just have to find ways to work together. Let's take a listen to John Steenhuisen confirming that they have indeed received the letter from big business. But this big business doesn't have a face. We don't know who are they. They just say big business. But who is the big business? But one will assume that will be BLSA. I mean, Business Leadership South Africa under the leadership of I forgot her name, Mavuso. I mean, Busisio Mavuso. So I think that would be the big business. But let's just take a listen to what John Steenhuisen had to say.
The DA, R1 trillion rand. We did receive a letter from business, indeed, and I think we've seen the market's reaction to a government without the DA. R1 trillion rand wiped off the JSE just as a result of a market reaction to a potential that the DA would no longer be in government. And so I do think that careful thought needs to be given to the next steps, and that cool heads need to prevail. And I think that we need to sit down rationally and try and find a way through this. But that can only happen if there is a genuine commitment to power sharing. And I think that is very important. We did receive a letter from business, indeed.
Yes, that was John Steenhuisen confirming that they did receive the letter from the big business, because a trillion rand was lost in the JSE, and saying that business have seen what what the economy looks like or will look like without the DA in the GNU. What does that even mean? Let's take a listen to the president, who was speaking in Soweto yesterday. He attended a branch meeting in Shawela, and this is what he had to say with regard to the letter.
The extent to which we cooperate with business must be understood to be with business on a number of issues. We have been cooperating with business as we execute our reforms, because they have a role to play. Business does play a key role in the economy of our country. The private sector's participation in our economy is about 70%. So they are a major player. And as a major player, we work with them on a cooperative basis, where we work together and we listen to each other's views, and we take decisions to move the country forward. But what will not happen is for any business to give orders and to dictate what should happen, because that space is the space that is occupied by people who have been elected by the people of South Africa. Business is not elected. People who are in parliament are the ones who've been elected to represent who? The views of everyone, including the views of business people in the country. So the extent to which we cooperate with business must be understood to be a process and a relationship of cooperating to take the country forward and not to dictate to one another. And that we will never allow. We are only dictated to by the people of South Africa. Finish and clear.
That's the president saying that they're only dictated to by the people of South Africa, but not business. But is that true? Is that true? I mean, I don't want to get into the politics of who gives who money and all of that. But do you believe the president that indeed business doesn't actually call the shots? The people calls the shots. I'm not sure if I completely agree with the president. Let's take a listen to Julius Malema saying that they are not prepared to work with the ANC or to be part of the GNU if the Democratic Alliance and the Freedom Front Plus are part of, they will still be part of the GNU. Because remember, last week there were rumors that there could be, or we could see, the DA, the ANC working together with the MK and also the Action SA, EFF. But the EFF saying that with this letter that now is making rounds, or we have heard of, we will not be part of the GNU if these two political parties are part of the GNU or are still in the GNU.
And see if it was Chimato, comrades, we can promise you now, we will never work in a government that includes the DA. We will never work in a government that includes Freedom Front Plus. Those are the people who killed our own people. When we say this is the enemy, if you don't know how the enemy looks like, just look at DA, just look at Freedom Front Plus. Those are the enemies of progress, and we will never work with them.
So yes, that's Julius Malema saying that they will not be working with the Democratic Alliance as well as the Freedom Front Plus, because they see those as the enemy of progress, the enemy of the people. Let's now take a listen to the views of our guest tonight. Our guest tonight is Sanet Solomon, who is the senior or the lecturer at the University of the Free State. She's a political analyst. I'm sure many of you have seen her on your TV screens, analyzing the current political, developments in the country and even international political developments. She was not able to join us. Actually, she was supposed to be joining us at this point, but she's not able to join us. But she has sent us a note, which I'm going to play, which she's sharing with us her views about the current developments.
The formation and composition of the GNU has been intriguing from the onset, given the diversity in views, ideologies, and priorities of these different political parties, and this is particularly true of the DA and the ANC. For ordinary South Africans, this GNU raised a lot of questions on what the political parties would seek to accomplish together, while financial markets obviously favored the deal for political stability. And there were a lot of hopes that these political parties would balance each other out given their opposing and also diverse views. However, over the last few months, we have seen a lot of strain between these parties, and it has also highlighted a lot of rifts in terms of their beliefs and priorities and how these influence on policy and the implementation and also execution of these policies. And we have seen how acts and bills like the Bella Act and the Expropriation Act has challenged the strength of the GNU. More recently, the 2025 caused more strain on this already fragile GNU. So, obviously, after the vote, we have heard that the DA has decided to file core papers challenging the VAT hike, and they've said that they'd obviously do this because they don't necessarily think that it would be in the best interest of South Africans. And this could obviously be something that we take note of as a country, because it's worth noting that it's rare to find parties like the DA, MK, and the EFF agreeing on key issues, and this should have been a signal to the ANC that it could possibly be heading in the wrong direction, as the implementation of this VAT increase would have severe implications on our decreasing middle class and also poorer communities, despite the finance minister zero rating certain items. So if these policy differences persist, this would be quite interesting, and it also could be a matter of time before the GNU collapses. So a possible dismantling of the GNU could ultimately pave way for parties such as the EFF and the MK to join this alliance, and this would consequently mean the return of what I would term the original ANC, as members from the MK and EFF were originally ANC members, and this could result in a change in South African politics, and alternatively it could also result in us reverting to what we've known for over 30 years, but only time would tell.
Indeed, only time will tell. Are we likely to see a reconfigured GNU, or are we going to see the ANC and the Democratic Alliance getting back into the negotiating table to say, how do we resolve this and move on? But there will be a lot of compromises, both from the ANC and the Democratic Alliance. But like Sanet have said, only time will tell. We are going to leave it here for the cycle this evening. Our sincere apologies that we were not able to have Sanet Solomons on the line, but she really apologizes for not being able to come to the show this evening, and the best she can do was to send us her views in a form of a voice note so that we are able to just get a sense of what to expect in the coming days, weeks, or even months. Until we meet again next week, Monday from 6 until 7 p.m. It's a good evening from me, and God bless you.
The home of inspiration every day.
Most people give up on themselves easily. You know the human spirit is powerful.
From news,
Countries across the globe have been hit by the COVID-19 virus.
views,
There's a global trend to see an increase in GBV incidences, specifically domestic violence.
sports,
What's he say? It's a really good ball. It's Shabalala.
and music to inspire you every day. This is Vuka Online, your inspiration radio station.